Welcome to A Year in the Bible with Daily Grace. My name is Kristen.
And my name is Katie. And we want to spend a few minutes a day with you walking through the New Testament, one chapter at a time. This year, we will fix our gaze upon Christ so that we may know him, not only with our minds, but with our hearts.
Together, we will learn that who Jesus is changes everything.
Welcome back to A Year in the Bible with Daily Grace. My name is Kristen, and it is a joy to walk with you through 3 John in our year-long study of the New Testament. As always, you can follow along with me with the Behold studies from the Daily Grace Co., and you can find all that info in the show notes. We have spent a lot of time with John in the last several weeks. Today, we move into John's third and final letter. Well, at least those epistles named after him. Though we read 3 John today, it's not the last time we will hear from John in Scripture. We will spend much more time with John as we dive into Revelation later this week and for the rest of the year. When comparing 2 John and 3 John, I love how the author Norman Geisler differentiates these books. He says in 2 John we see that truth is worth standing for, and in 3 John we see that truth is worth working for. There are many similarities between 2 and 3 John. Both are 2 of the shortest books in the Bible. Both start with John referring to himself as the elder. He loves the recipients of each letter in truth, and he ends each of the letters with a desire to see the recipient face to face. While 2 John was written to a congregation, 3 John is a personal letter. John takes care of a personal matter that underscores the importance of hospitality in the local church. 3 John can be read as a sort of letter of recommendation for a man named Demetrius. Demetrius was likely a traveling missionary or teacher that worked alongside John. In the first century, these traveling teachers would find shelter and rest under the care of the local churches that they were traveling to. It was customary and honorable to share your home with those who shared your faith. Usually, these travelers would come with a letter of recommendation that affirmed their character. In this case, Demetrius likely traveled carrying John's letter in hand as a recommendation. Demetrius was told to find shelter in the home of a man named Gaius. Gaius is the recipient of this letter, and it's clear that he and John know each other. John calls Gaius dear friend 4 times in this short letter. John begins by encouraging his friend, for several fellow believers came to commend Gaius's faith. Gaius is walking in truth just as John has commanded believers to do through his letters. And news of Gaius's faith brought John joy. His faith is also expressing itself in brotherly love for others by welcoming traveling preachers into his home. It's as if the traits John longed to see in believers throughout his first and second letter are being lived out by Gaius. John commends this brother in the faith. Scholars believe that Gaius led a church in his home, and his leadership starkly contrasts with who is believed to be another church leader in the area, Diotrephes. While Gaius was extending hospitality to these traveling teachers, Diotrephes was doing the opposite, desiring authority for himself. He rejected John's authority. Though John sent a letter of recommendation with traveling teachers he trusted, Diotrephes refused to accept them and rejected John's authority. Can you imagine? Likely at this point of time, John is the last living apostle, the last authority who has a close disciple of Jesus. And yet this leader rejects him. And not only that, he was slandering John's ministry with malicious words. Diotrephes was rejecting truth and rejecting brotherly love and training others to do the same. John encourages Gaius not to follow Diotrephes' example. In verse 11, John writes, "Dear friend, do not imitate what is evil, but what is good. The one who does good is of God. The one who does evil has not seen God." John invites Gaius to continue imitating what is good by welcoming Demetrius into his home. Demetrius is highly regarded and trusted by John. Unlike Diotrephes, Gaius had the opportunity to respect John's authority by welcoming the traveling teacher. As John closes his letter, he wraps up very similar to how he does in 2 John. He desires to share more with Gaius in person. John hopes he will see his dear friend face to face. As we close the shortest book of the Bible today, at least in the original Greek, I want you to ask yourself a question. How does this epistle point to Christ? You won't see a direct reference to Jesus in this letter, but Jesus is the undercurrent that carries John's message. Anytime you see the word truth or the phrase walking in truth, it's a reference to the gospel. an anchoring of one's faith in Jesus. Abiding in Jesus leads us to love and respect our brothers and sisters in the faith. Straying away causes doubt and division. That's what happened here in 3 John. This letter shows us what it looks like to live out the gospel. This letter shows us what it looks like to love and not love our neighbors well. As you reflect upon your life, are you quicker to extend an invitation or to be a skeptic? Are you more prone to generosity or to close-handedness? Though 3 John is a short letter, it is a great example of a radical generosity that we can follow. We behold him as the ultimate example of what it looks like to love our neighbors as ourselves. May we walk in the footsteps of Jesus. May our lives point others to him, and may we love as he loved.
Thank you so much for listening to today's episode of A Year in the Bible with Daily Grace. Don't forget to check out the show notes for helpful links and resources related to today's episode. And make sure you are following at Daily Grace Podcast on Instagram for more A Year in the Bible content, and at the Daily Grace Co. for all things Bible study resources. We can't wait to study again with you tomorrow. Bye, friends.